somebody. I may be on welfare, but I am somebody.
Reverend Jesse Jackson's I Am Somebody speech in its full glory. The crowd passionately repeated every phrase word for word.
But I am somebody. I am black.
He was 22 here in Chicago at the height of the civil rights movement. Growing up in South Carolina to an unmarried teenage mother, he was like all black Americans at the time, forced to accept he was inferior simply because of the colour of his skin. He was badly affected by the police beatings of black demonstrators in Selma, Alabama in 1965. It was here that he met Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
This nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed.
King became his mentor and appointed him as the youngest member of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. He was a key member of Martin Luther King Jr.'s entourage and was with him on that fateful day in 1968 on the balcony of the hotel in Memphis. What happened that day shadowed the way Jesse Jackson was viewed for decades, criticised for trying to steal the spotlight after the assassination and for trying to position himself as the natural successor. But that didn't stop his political ambitions.
This campaign has taught me much, that leaders must be tough enough to fight, tender enough to cry, human enough to make mistakes, humble enough to admit them, strong enough to absorb the pain, and resilient enough to bounce back and keep on moving.
Despite the fervent enthusiasm, it wasn't enough to secure the Democrat nomination. Or again, when he tried in 1988. His oratory, though, had the power to electrify the crowds.
We must never surrender. America will get better and better. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive on tomorrow night and beyond. Keep hope alive.
This chant lived on. Reverend Jackson had run so Barack Obama could later fly. Reverend Jackson also viewed himself as a global statesperson, here as a mediator between the United States and Palestinians, a move criticised by the American Jewish community, who he also upset with anti-Semitic slurs. He later apologised. In the UK, he had a series of visits, Diane Abbott then accompanying him at Heathrow, greeted by the rain and an unfamiliar car seating arrangement.
Wrong side, wrong side. Wrong side. Wrong side.
Oh, okay. Many of his trips were arranged by his friend Lee Jasper, a racial equality activist. What was it like when Reverend Jackson came here to Brixton?
The streets were thronging, people wanted to meet him. We were in restaurants there on Cole Harbour Lane and had to have security on the door because people were on the windows. He really arrived in superstar status, and Brixton gave him that African diaspora superstar welcome.
What do you think his legacy will be outside of the US?
When you think about a man who ran twice for president, who set the bar, who demolished the falsehood that a black man could not be president in the United States. He literally paved the way for all those who stood on his shoulders, like President Obama and others later. But I think he'll be fondly remembered around the world, in much the same way I think that Muhammad Ali is.
Arguably, one of Reverend Jackson's proudest moments was the election of Barack Obama. Even though he criticised him in an off-mic moment for talking down to black Americans, he later apologised. And his pride at his inauguration was clear for all to see. In later years, he continued to fight for equality, championing the Black Lives Matter movement. His political journey may have remained painfully unfinished, but his family are clear that his legacy is that of a leader, not just to them, but to the oppressed and the voiceless around the world.
Well, tributes have come from across the political spectrum in the United States. Let's get more from Kate Fisher in Washington. Kate.
Yes, Christian, they include from a US president often accused of racism, something he, of course, always denies. But Donald Trump posting on social media describing Reverend Jackson as a good man with lots of personality, grit and street smarts. Donald Trump claiming that despite being falsely and consistently called a racist, it was always his pleasure to help Jesse along the way. And in this Truth Social post, he also referred to that relationship between Jackson and Obama that Aisha talked about in her report. Mr. Trump in this social media post alleging that Reverend Jackson could not stand Barack Obama. But when you look at the tribute posted by Barack Obama, it is not the sentiment at all. Instead, it is the first black president praising the first black man to run for the presidency, saying, "We will always be grateful for Jesse's lifetime of service. We stood on his shoulders." Now, other high-profile Democrats have also paid tribute, including former President Joe Biden, who said that he was determined and tenacious and unafraid to do the work to redeem the soul of the nation. And his former Vice President Kamala Harris also releasing a statement in which she called him one of America's greatest patriots. He was also a great mentor to many, including fellow civil rights leader Al Sharpton.
Jesse Jackson changed American politics. Jesse Jackson changed the civil rights movement. He was a consequential and transformative figure. And he changed New York politics.
Now, Mr. Sharpton said that Jesse Jackson changed him personally as well and stopped him from being so cynical about the struggle, saying that he helped me from going from just bitter to trying to be better.
Kay Fisher in Washington. Well, joining me now is the civil rights activist Reverend Gregory Seal Livingston, who had a senior role in the Reverend Jackson's Rainbow Push coalition. What have you lost today?
Well, I've lost and first of all, thank you for having me. And I want to extend my condolences and my prayers to Mrs. Jackson and the Jackson family and beyond. But, I've lost a brother, a spiritual father, a leader, a mentor, all of those things. But also what Reverend Jackson taught all of us all the time is that when Dr. King was assassinated on April 4th, 1968, the mantle had to be picked up. And so even now with Reverend Jackson, even though he was silenced, for about a year in terms of his disease and the like, we have to pick up that mantle and to march forward because as he would always say, Livingston, remember this, the only fights that we can't win are the ones that we don't fight.
Who are the towering figures left?
It's all of us. We all must pick up the mantle. We're all living in this world. We've all benefited from his work. We are the ones that must step up. We are the ones that must grow into what we must become. And that is something he taught as well. So he's passing the baton, as it were, by way of his death. And we all have to carry that and to do the right thing and to have that vision. We go from I have a dream to I am somebody to keep hope alive. And, Jesse and I traveled the world together. And, I learned so much from him. And so my life is dedicated, to helping the helpless and being a voice to the voiceless as well.
There were such amazing achievements that he was part of. But right now, do you believe civil rights in America are still going forward or backwards?
Well, in America, the great unit of power is the vote, the enfranchisement. And so the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, these things must be protected. And because what makes America great is that vote, is that enfranchisement. It doesn't matter your pedigree, your education, your economic status, that you can have an impact on the country that you live in because we have something called a vote. But we have to protect that and not allow the protections to be rolled back. So we have to stay vigilant. And that's what Jesse always did. Listen, when I worked with Jesse full time, we worked 365 days a year, 24/7. He called me every morning at 4:15 a.m. and we were strategizing. Before the internet was like it is now, we had newspapers, and we combed through these newspapers to see what people needed help, how we could help them, and to go forth from there. And so there are many of us, he's had many disciples, and there are many of us who know, okay, let's step up the game. You know, Daddy's gone, but he's left us to do the work.
He cried with emotion famously when Obama was elected. In that later stage of his life, what do you think was driving him? What were the injustices that were driving him to still work, as you say, every day, all day?
Well, in some ways, history doesn't repeat itself in so much as human beings, we repeat ourselves. So the same injustices that got him involved in the civil rights movement in 1960 and beyond, there were still things happening every and anywhere. You know, have a trip to Syria in April. Well, you know, he started that back in the 80s when he rescued the Air Force pilot, Robert. I think it was Porter, forgive me now. And so then we got involved again with Syria. I brought the Syrian community to him, and we were doing things, and he was showing me how, and all the just incredible. So when you ask, is there still stuff that needs to be corrected? Are there still wrongs that need to be made right? Are there still people who have evil in their heart? The answer to all of those is a resounding yes. And so what he has given us is an incredible methodology. And to some people, they may think that it's an outdated methodology, but it's like the knife and the hammer. You know, they've never been improved upon because what they do is perfect. And so they are what they are. And so we are to cut away, you know, the evil and to hammer in the truth and to make a better world, a better city, better communities, better neighborhoods for every and anybody that we're blessed to have contact with.
Reverend Livingston, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.